In 211 AC, the going rate to have a man brutally murdered in front of thousands of cheering spectators, it wasn't a chest of gold.
No, not even close.
Right, and it certainly wasn't like a high lord's ransom. It was just a single, totally unremarkable pouch of silver.
Just a pouch of silver.
Yeah. We are fed this very sanitized, brightly colored lie from childhood about what the age of chivalry actually looked like.
The songs and the stories.
Exactly. We have this image just burned into our collective consciousness, right? Shining knights, galloping war horses.
The favors of fair maidens fluttering in the wind.
Yes. And this pristine, unbreakable code of honor. You're either a true knight or you aren't.
Right. It's very black and white in the myths.
But when you start pulling at the threads of these suppressed histories, when you get your hands on the smuggled ledgers and the hushed accounts of what actually happened down in the mud and the blood, well, that bright tapestry dissolves pretty quickly.
Oh, completely falls apart.
It really does. We aren't looking at a fairy tale here. We're excavating a crime scene.
A very active, very bloody crime scene.
Yeah. And today, we are taking you down into a very specific, forbidden chapter of history. We're talking about the infamous tourney at Castle Whitewalls.
Which is, in many ways, it's the Rosetta Stone for understanding the brutal realities of this era.
Right.
If we're going to tear away the banners and look at the actual slaughterhouse beneath, Whitewalls in 211 AC is exactly where we need to start.
It's the perfect microcosm.
It really is. And we're relying on some truly remarkable sources here, like financial records that were never meant to survive.
Which is wild that we even have them.
I know. Fragmented firsthand accounts from what's historically whispered as the traitor's tourney.
The traitor's tourney. Just the name alone sets the tone.
Exactly. And, of course, we have the incredibly dark reality of what happened when a penniless, physically massive hedge knight named Sir Duncan the Tall, right, when he and his disguised squire, Prince Aegon Targaryen Egg, basically washed completely blind into a viper's nest.
Yeah, and to really grasp the sheer, suffocating tension of this event, we have to talk about the guest list.
Oh, the guest list is everything.
Because on paper, this is Lord Ambrose Butterwell's wedding.
Right. It's supposed to be a party.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a lavish, joyous celebration. But you start scanning the names of the lords pitching their pavilions in the meadows, and every single one is just a glaring red flag.
Oh, absolutely. The wedding is nothing but a theatrical front. Almost every highborn lord in attendance is a pardoned rebel.
Right.
These are the men who bled for the Black Dragon, for the Black Fires, during the first Blackfire Rebellion, roughly 15 years prior.
So they have some serious history.
Oh, massive. They lost their lands, they lost their sons, they lost their pride, and they were forced to bend the knee to a king they absolutely despise.
So they aren't exactly there to, toast a new bride.
Not at all. They're here to test the waters for a second rebellion. The socioeconomic fallout of that first war left these houses practically bankrupt and deeply, deeply resentful.
Yeah, they're desperate.
Exactly. They're desperate. And when desperate, heavily armed men gather under the guise of sport, the resulting atmosphere isn't festive. It's highly combustible.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the stakes here are so far beyond a standard jousting prize.
Well, infinitely beyond.
Right. They aren't just fighting for a purse of gold or a nice suit of armor. The grand prize for the champion of this specific tourney is a literal, priceless dragon's egg.
A dragon's egg? Let that sink in.
It's insane. Now, if you know the lore, you know a dragon's egg isn't just an asset you can liquidate. It's not just a big gemstone.
No, it is the ultimate, undeniable symbol of royal Targaryen legitimacy.
Right. Handing that to a rebel sympathizer is practically a declaration of war.
It is a declaration of war, plain and simple.
So you have this incredibly tense, radioactive environment. Every silk pavilion is a hub of treason.
Secret identities, coded conversations.
High-level political maneuvering. All of it. And because the stakes were so impossibly high, the lords weren't the only ones looking to profit, right?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Whenever you have that much concentrated wealth and desperation, it breeds something else.
Yeah, this secondary parasitic shadow economy right there in the mud.
Precisely.
Which brings us to Dunk, because he's an honest, starving hedge knight. He just wants to win enough silver to buy a hot meal for his squire.
That's his whole motivation. Just food.
Right. So how does a guy with zero political capital navigate an environment that's entirely rigged?
He doesn't navigate it. He crashes right into it, and he gets absolutely mangled by the machinery.
Mangled is the perfect word.
Yeah. Dunk enters the lists as the Gallows Knight. That's a moniker he adopts because he actually had to leave his signature shield behind as collateral just to get a spot.
Which is just heartbreaking.
It is. It tells you everything you need to know about his socioeconomic standing, right?
Mm.
He's operating the absolute bottom of the feudal hierarchy.
Yeah, he isn't fighting for glory. He's fighting for calories.
Exactly. He needs to feed himself, and he needs to feed Egg. And waiting for him on the other end of the list is a man who perfectly embodies that parasitic shadow economy you mentioned.
Ser Uthor Underleaf.
Better known as the Snail Knight.
Right. Riding out with a silver snail on a green and black shield. And I want to look closely at the mechanics of this matchup because it's a perfect distillation of how naive Dunk really is at this point.
Oh, he is so out of his depth.
Dunk has this massive physical advantage, right? He's nearly 7 feet tall, incredibly strong.
A giant.
Yeah. But reading the breakdown of this joust, it's just painful. It's like watching someone walk into a rigged casino thinking they can beat the house just by rolling the dice really, really hard.
Right. That casino analogy hits the nail on the head. Dunk thinks he's in a martial contest. Ser Uthor knows he's executing a business transaction.
Wow. A business transaction.
Raw strength is practically irrelevant against a specialist who understands the geometry of the joust.
The geometry, I love that.
Because Uthor doesn't fight with emotion. He executes a physical algorithm.
Right, he's a machine out there.
Exactly. When the horses charge, Uthor doesn't aim for Dunk's shield, which is, what a chivalrous knight is supposed to do.
Right, that's the sporting thing to do.
Instead, he aims his hollowed-out ash lance high, catching the crest of Dunk's helm.
Oh, man.
It's a calculated application of leverage against Dunk's own massive center of gravity.
So he uses Dunk's size against him.
Completely. The joust is brutal purely because of how swift and humiliatingly efficient it is. Dunk is unseated instantly.
Boom. Face in the dirt.
Yep. The sheer mechanical precision of the Snail Knight turns Dunk's greatest asset, his mass, into the very thing that drives him into the mud.
And we really need to emphasize what that mud tastes like, Because the unforgiving reality of a Westerosi tourney is just devastating.
Devastating is the right word.
Like, if you lose a modern sporting event, your pride is hurt, maybe your ranking drops.
You go home and try again.
Right. But if you lose a joust in 211 AC, the victor legally claims your armor and your horse.
Winner takes all.
It's winner takes all. And for a hedge knight, that isn't just a setback, it's an existential threat.
It's ruin.
Yeah. In the span of a single breath, Dunk loses his warhorse, Thunder. He loses his plate armor, he loses his entire net worth, his livelihood, and essentially his legal right to call himself a knight.
Exactly right. What's fascinating here is that a knight without a horse and armor is just a very tall, very heavily scarred peasant.
The peasant, yeah.
The economic devastation cannot be overstated here. A warhorse like Thunder represents years, sometimes decades, of careful investment and upkeep.
It's like losing a house.
Yes. And plate armor is meticulously fitted, heavily maintained, and impossibly expensive. To have that stripped away is an economic death sentence.
You literally can't work.
You can't accept contracts, you can't protect travelers, you can't even realistically defend yourself on the open road.
So Dunk is left standing in the mud, humiliated, his whole life just ripped away.
Completely stripped.
And he does what any desperate man would do, right? He limps over to Ser Uthor's tent to try and negotiate a ransom for his gear.
Which is standard practice.
Right. You scrape together a few coins, you swallow your pride, and you buy your life back.
Huh.
But what Dunk uncovers inside that tent completely shatters the illusion of the tourney.
It really does. The moment those tent flaps close, the chivalric pretense vanishes entirely.
It's just gone.
Uthor Underleaf doesn't greet Dunk as a fellow brother in arms.
No.
Dunk realizes very quickly that he's looking at a highly sophisticated tourney grifter. Uthor has zero interest in martial glory or knightly honor.
None at all.
He's running a high-volume, low-risk racket right beneath the noses of the High Lords.
And the logistics of this racket are wild to think about. I mean, he's not just getting lucky. He's systematically traveling the 7 kingdoms, paying off the heralds and the masters of the games to manipulate the brackets.
It's all rigged.
Right. He ensures he's paired with inexperienced, heavily armored kids or physically clumsy knights who just have more gold than sense.
Exactly. The easy marks.
He surgically dismantles them, claims their incredibly expensive gear, and then either ransoms it back at extortionate rates or sells it to brokers.
It's a beautifully cynical business model. Yeah. I mean, the High Lords sit in their stands, drinking their wine, thinking they're watching a grand display of martial supremacy.
Oh, the pageantry.
Right. But Uthor's basically running a chop shop on the tourney grounds.
A chop shop. That is exactly what it is.
And the audacity he displays when Dunk walks in is staggering.
Yeah.
He looks at this giant, destitute, broken young man, and he doesn't offer him pity. He offers him a partnership.
Yeah, he wants Dunk to be his professional patsy.
Exactly.
Uthi looks at Dunk and basically says, listen, your sheer size makes you look terrifying. When I beat you, the crowds go wild, the betting odds skew in my favor, and my prestige skyrockets.
The optics are perfect for him.
Right, so he offers Dunk a cut of his profits to travel with him and intentionally take dives.
It's the ultimate degradation of everything Dunk believes in. It reduces the sacred vows of knighthood to a traveling circus act, but with genuine economic ruin for the marks who don't know it's rigged.
Yeah, the marks are losing everything while these guys play pretend.
Uthor is essentially putting a price tag on Dunk's soul. He's offering him financial security, a warm bed, guaranteed food for a squire at the absolute cost of his honor.
Which puts the listener, you, right in the center of a brutal moral crucible.
It's a heavy choice.
Right, put yourself in Dunk's rusted, mud-caked boots for a second. You have a starving kid depending on you. You have literally lost everything.
You're at rock bottom.
Do you take the guaranteed paycheck? Do you swallow your pride, become a professional loser, and survive? Or do you cling to this abstract, invisible concept of honor, tell the grifter to go straight to hell, and risk starving to death in a ditch?
It's a terrifying question.
It is. In a society that constantly preaches honor but financially rewards corruption, it's not an easy choice.
Well, for most men in that camp, it wouldn't be a choice at all. They'd take the silver.
In a heartbeat.
But Dunk's defining characteristic isn't his height. It's his incredibly rigid, almost naive adherence to a moral code he learned from his old master.
Right, Ser Alyn.
So he looks this wealthy, comfortable grifter in the eye and refuses. He says, I lost my armor, not my honor.
Which is such a great line.
It is, but it's economically suicidal.
Yeah, but that stubborn refusal is the exact trigger that blows this whole story wide open.
That's the turning point.
Because up until this second, we're just looking at a sports scam. A dirty, unethical financial grift. But Dunk's rigid morality breaks the Snail Knight's patience.
He just can't understand it.
No, and this is where the narrative shifts from a financial crime into a lethal conspiracy. Uthor just sighs, looks at Dunk like he's a complete idiot, and spills a heavy pouch of silver coins right onto the table between them.
And this is the moment the atmosphere in the tent goes ice cold.
Just freezing.
Uthor reveals that the rigged bracket wasn't just his usual grift. He was secretly approached before the joust by a mystery benefactor.
Yeah.
He was handed this heavy bribe. And the contract wasn't to unseat the gallows knight to win his armor. The contract was to aim his lance high and snap Dunk's neck.
Oh my god.
They paid the Snail Knight to execute Ser Duncan the Tall in front of the entire realm.
Okay, but hold on. I have to synthesize this for a second because the logic here feels contradictory.
How so?
Well, if we have a precision jouster who mathematically controls his lance, and he was explicitly paid to assassinate Dunk, why is Dunk currently breathing?
Right.
Why did Uthor only knock him off his horse? And furthermore, if Uthor is running a lucrative underground racket, what is his economic incentive to confess a murder plot to the target? That seems like a massive liability.
That's a brilliant question, and the answer lies in the cold-blooded pragmatism of hitman economics.
Hitman economics.
Exactly. Uthor leaves Dunk alive simply because the bribe wasn't high enough.
You're kidding!
He explains this to Dunk with a chilling bureaucratic detachment. To a professional grifter, murder isn't just a physical act, it's an extreme legal liability.
Right, the consequences.
If you kill a man in the lists, even by accident, it draws the attention of the master of games. It draws the king's justice.
You get a lot of eyes on you.
Exactly. There is a strict, hyperinflated market price for an execution to cover that exact risk.
Ah, so he literally just did the math. He weighed the pouch of silver, looked at the risk from a murder charge, and said, this buys a concussion, not a funeral.
That is exactly what happened. The silver provided only covered the risk and effort of a glancing, wounding blow.
Wow.
Uthor didn't miss. He delivered the exact, precise amount of violence that the client paid for.
He fulfilled the contract strictly by the letter.
Exactly. And he confesses this to Dunk because, in his deeply twisted worldview, he's demonstrating professional integrity.
Professional integrity, that is wild.
He has no personal animosity toward Dunk. He's effectively saying, I want you to know I didn't fail to kill you. I chose not to because I wasn't adequately compensated to take your life.
That is so messed up.
It's a devastating commentary on how cheap life is in Westeros, while simultaneously showing that premeditated execution has a very specific, rigid market value.
It's just sickening. I mean, Dunk is sitting there staring at the silver, realizing someone in the camp just tried to purchase his death like a loaf of bread.
Just another transaction.
Right, and his life was only spared because the buyer was cheap.
Thank God for cheap nobles, right?
Yeah, honestly. But the paranoid tension just absolutely skyrockets here. Because the immediate question is, who wants him dead?
Right. Who paid the silver?
And if you're a historian or a lore keeper looking at the board, your mind instantly goes to the grand geopolitical stakes. I mean, this is a traitor's tourney.
Of course. That's the obvious angle.
Does Lord Butterwell suspect that Dunk's squire is actually Prince Aegon Targaryen? Are the Blackfyre loyalists trying to eliminate a royal heir by taking out his protector?
It's the most logical assumption you could make. When you're surrounded by sedition and treason, you naturally assume an assassination attempt is a calculated political maneuver tied to the Iron Throne itself.
Right. You run through the suspects, you think, okay, Butterwell, the Sellswords, the Blackfyre generals.
The big player?
Yeah, the big players. But the truth, the actual mastermind who handed over that silver is so deeply pathetic, it's almost funny if it wasn't so dangerous.
Oh, it really is pathetic.
It's not a political mastermind. It's a haughty, pale, incredibly insecure nobleman named Ser Alyn Cockshaw.
Ser Alyn Cockshaw is a fascinating psychological case study.
He really is.
When you peel back his layers, you don't find a Machiavellian plotter trying to secure a dragon's egg. You find a highly volatile, deeply insecure individual who is completely consumed by a desperate, unrequited obsession. He is a man defined by his own perceived inadequacy.
Because Cockshaw is madly, desperately in love with this charismatic, enigmatic hedge knight going by the name John the Fiddler.
The Fiddler.
But the Fiddler,
Yeah.
he doesn't even look in Cockshaw's direction anymore, especially not since Dung arrived.
He's moved on.
Yeah. Because John the Fiddler claims to have prophetic dreams, these intense magical visions, and he has publicly stated that he saw Dunk wearing the white cloak of the Kingsguard.
So Dunk becomes his new obsession.
Exactly. The Fiddler is completely obsessed with recruiting Dunk, following him around, showering him with attention, and Cockshaw is just left standing in the rain, totally ignored.
It's a perfect example of how grand historical rebellions are so frequently derailed by petty, pathetic human emotion.
It's never about the throne with these guys, is it?
No, Cockshaw couldn't care less about the Blackfyre cause in this moment. He's a jilted lover throwing a lethal temper tantrum.
A lethal temper tantrum, wow!
He feels discarded and invisible. And his unhinged, twisted logic dictates that the only way to reclaim the Fiddler's affection is to permanently erase the object of the Fiddler's new obsession.
So he decides to murder a man who has never wronged him, purely out of romantic jealousy.
Pure jealousy.
And this circles perfectly back to Uthor Underleaf. Cockshaw was the one who paid the bribe. But because Cockshaw is an arrogant noble who has never had to operate in the criminal underworld, he completely underestimated the going rate for a professional hit.
He didn't know the market?
He cheaped out. And when his budget assassination fails, this sneering, pampered lord realizes he has to actually get his own hands bloody.
Which is a catastrophic shift in his methodology.
Yeah.
Hiring a professional like the Snail Knight keeps Cockshaw insulated from the visceral reality of violence. But taking matters into his own hands forces him out of the pageantry of the tourney and into the raw, brutal mechanics of murder.
He has to step into the mud himself.
He has become a predator.
And he sets a truly terrifying trap. I mean, the tourney grounds are in absolute chaos, right? The wine is flowing, people are celebrating, conspiring in the dark.
Lots of
And
distractions.
suddenly, Dunk realizes Egg is gone. His squire, the boy he has sworn to protect, a royal prince in disguise, is just missing.
The panic must have been absolute.
The claustrophobia and panic that sets in is suffocating. And right at that peak moment of vulnerability, Cockshaw steps out of the shadows with this cruel, knowing smirk. He tells Dunk he knows exactly where the boy is. He weaponizes Dunk's panic to lure him away from the torches, away from the crowds.
It's a classic predatory tactic.
Yeah.
You isolate the prey by exploiting their emotional vulnerabilities.
Right.
He leads Dunks away from any potential witnesses, stripping away the safety of the public sphere.
He leads him to this abandoned, enclosed courtyard, just Cold, damp stone walls and a deep, yawning black well right in the center.
A kill box.
Perfect kill box. And then Cockshaw draws his dagger. There's no villainous monologue. He doesn't grandstand about the black fire cause.
No grand speeches here.
He just snaps. It's the rabid, screaming fury of a man who feels entirely inadequate. He lunges and slashes Dunks deeply across the side.
It's a moment of chaotic, intimate violence. But this is where we have to analyze the fatal miscalculation Cockshaw made. Cockshaw is highborn. His entire physiological understanding of violence is framed by the tourney lists, by the rules of chivalry, by yielding and exchanging ransoms.
Right. It's very structured for him.
He expects to be fighting a knight bound by those same artificial rules, especially one who is currently unarmed and bleeding out.
But he's not fighting a tourney knight.
No, he's not.
He just cornered a giant who was raised in the absolute gutters of Flea Bottom. Dunk might wear a rusted suit of armor on occasion, but beneath the steel, he is a street survivor.
A brawler?
Yeah. You do not corner a massive, desperate kid from Flea Bottom in a dark alley and expect him to respect the rules of engagement.
Precisely. The veneer of chivalry instantly evaporates. Dunk doesn't call for a maester. He doesn't try to yield.
No way.
He fights with the primal, desperate brutality of a man who knows that yielding to a knife means bleeding out on the stones. Cockshaw brought a dagger to a street fight, but Dunk brings the entire environment. The difference between martial arts and survival combat is entirely lost on the nobleman.
The reality of this fight is visceral and sickening. Dunk is bleeding heavily. He has no weapon, but he just barrels straight through the pain.
Just sheer momentum.
Yeah, he overpowers this sniveling lord through sheer brute force. He disarms him, grabs a heavy, jagged piece of stone from the courtyard floor, and just shatters Cockshaw's arrogant face. He literally caves in that sneer with a rock. And then, running entirely on adrenaline, Dunk lifts this thrashing, screaming assassin off his feet and throws him backward.
It's a jarring transition. We go from the calculated mathematical violence of the snail knight on horseback to the raw, visceral survival violence of the courtyard.
It's like two different worlds.
It really is. It strips away every illusion of nobility. This is a brawl for breath and life, ending in the most terrifyingly permanent way imaginable.
Dunk throws him directly into the yawning black mouth of the well.
Straight down.
You hear this horrific, echoing scream bouncing off the damp stone walls, dropping deeper and deeper, and then it is violently silenced by a heavy, watery splash.
And that's it.
And then nothing. Just the sound of water dripping and Dunk gasping for air, bleeding out onto the cold stones.
The immediate physical threat is neutralized. Cockshaw's petty jealousy literally consumed him, burying him in the freezing dark.
Poetic justice, almost.
But surviving that dagger, surviving a very human, very pathetic assassination attempt, all it really does is expose Dunk to something infinitely worse.
Yeah, the real threat.
Because the true danger of Whitewalls was never the jilted lover.
Right. Dunk is panting, clutching his side, trying to mentally process that he, a lowly hedge knight, just murdered a highborn lord.
Which is a huge deal.
It is. And the pale moonlight shifts across the courtyard, and suddenly the shadows move. He realizes he isn't alone.
Someone was watching.
A tall figure steps out from an archway, Sir Maynard Plumm. Now, up to this point, Plumm has just been hovering on the periphery of the tourney, presenting himself as a totally insignificant, slightly sarcastic hedge knight.
Right, dude is a background character. And his sudden appearance is deeply chilling, specifically because of how completely unaffected he is by the brutal murder that just occurred feet away from him.
He doesn't even flinch.
He steps out, helps Dunk to his feet, and casually starts cleaning and binding Dunk's stab wound.
Like it's nothing.
Like they're just chatting at a tavern. And while he's applying the bandages, with the casual tone of a man discussing the weather, he drops the most dangerous, highly treasonous secret in the entire Seven Kingdoms.
He looks at Dunks and says, essentially, by the way, your admirer, John the Fiddler, the man Cockshaw was willing to kill you over, he is actually Demon the Second Blackfire.
The Black Dragon.
He is the leader of this entire rebellion. Now, as historians, we have to pause and ask, how? How does a lowly peripheral hedge knight know the absolute inner workings of a royal rebellion? How does he know the secret identity of the most wanted man in the realm? It makes zero sense.
It doesn't add up at all.
Plumm's eyes, they miss absolutely nothing. He knows way, way too much.
And this is the fulcrum, where the narrative pitches violently from a tense political thriller into the realm of absolute psychological horror.
Yes, horror is the exact word.
For a listener deeply familiar with the lore, the identity of John the Fiddler might not be a shock. But put yourself in Dunk's mind. The dread is suffocating.
He's just a guy from Flea Bottom.
Right. Plumm possesses a level of omniscience that is physically impossible for a hedge knight. He knows the secrets of the High Lords. He knows the hidden identities. He knows exactly what transpired in that courtyard before he stepped out.
Mm-hmm.
And as Dunk stares at him, trying to comprehend the sheer magnitude of this treasonous revelation, he notices something deeply, fundamentally unnatural about Plumm's face.
This is the detail in the source material that gives me absolute chills every time I read it.
It's terrifying.
Dunk looks closely at Plumm in the pale moonlight, and Plumm's features, his actual face, it seems to shift and blur.
Like mirage.
It's described like looking at a reflection in troubled water. It is a face held together by unnatural magic.
Well,
And for just a fleeting, terrifying fraction of a second, the illusion slips. Dunk doesn't see a sarcastic hedge knight. He sees chalk-white skin. He sees a single, glowing red eye.
it is a moment of pure existential terror. Because we know exactly how these glamours work in the deep lore.
Right, this isn't just a trick of the light.
This isn't a cheap parlor trick.
Mm-hmm.
A glamour is often tied to an object, in Plumm's case, a moonstone brooch.
Mm.
It uses light, shadow, and deeply unsettling blood magic to project a false reality into the minds of the people looking at it.
To literally overwrite their perception.
Exactly. The sheer psychological weight of maintaining that false face, of suppressing your own true form, it requires a will of iron.
Yeah.
And that single red eye slipping through the illusion confirms the most terrifying truth of the era. The man binding Dunk's wounds is Brynden Rivers, Lord Bloodraven,
Bloodraven.
the Hand of the King, the Master of Whisperers, the rumored sorcerer, and the most feared man in Westeros.
He is the surveillance state made flesh.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Which means the Snail Knight's grifts, Cockshaw's petty, murderous jealousy, even the grand Blackfire conspiracy happening in the pavilions, it was all just noise.
Just a distraction.
The true horror of Castle Whitewalls is that Bloodraven didn't just send spies. He is physically present.
He's right there in the mud with them.
He has been hiding behind a magically constructed face, pulling the strings from the shadows, watching every single treasonous whisper, every bribe, every drop of blood spilled. Dunk is essentially standing next to a magical nuclear reactor disguised as a candle.
Precisely. It completely recontextualizes the entire history of the event.
Yeah, it really does.
Because why is Bloodraven there in person? Because he doesn't just want to defeat the rebellion, he wants to perfectly orchestrate its exposure.
He wants them all to incriminate themselves.
He needs to know exactly who is loyal and who is traitorous, down to the last man. The Snail in the Well is a profound synthesis of this era.
It really wraps it all up.
It teaches us that while the grand games of kings and rebels take center stage in the official histories, the immediate lethal dangers are usually born of mundane human flaws.
Right.
The greed of Uthor Underleaf, the pathetic jealousy of Alyn Cockshaw.
But the cruelest irony is that surviving those human flaws, like outsmarting the financial grifter, overpowering the jealous assassin in a street fight, all that does is bring you face to face with the supernatural terrors that are actually running the board.
You step out of the frying pan into the fire.
You survive the gutter only to realize you are locked in a cage with an omniscient monster.
It is the ultimate tragedy of the Westerosi reality.
Yeah.
The political maneuverings, the tourney lists, the human failings, they are merely the visible spectrum of a much darker, magically infused reality.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
The true power operates entirely unseen, manipulating the desperate and the greedy with terrifying absolute precision.
It is a heavy, suffocating reality to process. But, you know, that is exactly what we do here. We dig past the songs about fair maidens to find the blood, the grifts, and the dark magic hidden in the ledgers.
We have to. It's the only way to know the truth.
Absolutely. If you want to survive the coming winter, and if you want to uncover more of these suppressed, highly dangerous secrets as we march relentlessly toward the violent climax of the Second Blackfire Rebellion, you need to stick with us.
You can't afford not to.
Right. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share this knowledge with your fellow lords and ladies, because the true history is always deadlier than the fairy tales.
The pursuit of this hidden knowledge is essential. Examining these dark, suppressed perspectives is the only defense we have against the illusions cast by power.
I couldn't have said it better. So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over. We started this deep dive talking about how much of history is a rigged game, a bright banner hiding a slaughterhouse. Well, consider the mechanics of the glamour we just discussed. If the most dangerous players in the Game of Thrones, the true puppet masters, can literally change their faces and hide in plain sight using dark blood magic.
Right.
How much of the history we've been taught, how much of reality itself is just an illusion cast by a single red eye in the dark? Think about that next time you read a history book. We will see you next time.